Hello, everybody. Welcome to another Visit NC webinar. I'm Whit, the director, tourism director. We're thrilled to be here. This is exclusively for people who are participating in the NCTIA grant program. I have Laura Jimenez and Samantha from the Pandemic Recovery Office who are with us today. And I'm going to get right to them because they only have a half hour. So Laura's got a PowerPoint that she's going to go over. And Laura, I am making you the presenter. So you should be able to show that, I think, if you accept. All right, yep, we're seeing it. This is being recorded, by the way, and will be available on our website, on our partner site, along with all the other Visit NC webinars, if something goes too fast and you want to review it.
Now, can you see the actual, just the reporting requirements screen right now?
We can see your, yeah, you see it in your presentation mode, so it's showing the next slide as well, but that's fine.
So then what I want to do, okay, now you still see everything that's going on for the next one as well?
Correct.
All right. Wait, would it be best for you to then just go through the slides and I'll talk?
Sure.
All right, let's do that.
Okay, everybody, now I'm the presenter. We'll get this going. Okay, so we're showing your first slide. Just
Yes.
tell me when to move and I'll click along.
You can go ahead and click next. So yeah, once again, good morning, everyone. This was kind of short notice, but we are here, and please know any questions you have, we're here to assist. Again, we don't have a whole lot of time, but we definitely want to take some time to answer any of your questions. As you know, these we are received the money through the CARES Act that was passed on March 27th of this year, and the pandemic is still going. And I'm sure there are going to be new or more money probably coming through, but nothing has been said as of that, as of today. Now the allocation, and I'm sorry, I should have changed this session law to 2020-80. That was where the money from 60 or 60-00 that we got it from the session law 2020-80, not 97. So just wanted to be clear on that. And then the governor signed the session law. Again, I'm sorry, this was this was from another presentation, so I should have changed it to session law 2020-80. We can move on to the next one, and I think we're going to go into the news. Yes, there you go. So this is the session law that allocated the $1.5 million to the Department of Commerce, and from the Department of Commerce it went to Visit North Carolina, or NC Visit. And yeah, the CARES Act requirements, just keep in mind three things about the CARES Act, the requirements. It must be necessary expenditures, and they must have been incurred through a time frame, and that time frame has to be from back to March. It could be anywhere from March through December, but what you have to keep in mind is that it cannot have been accounted for in the most recent approved budget as of March 27. Again, the period that we are incurring any expenses can go back to March 1st and ends on December 30th. I know a lot of people may have questions as to if anything can be paid on after this time frame, but as of right now, it cannot. It has to be all the way until only December the 30th. And again, this, go ahead.
And that's December 30th, not the 31st. A lot of people think it's the 31st, but for some strange reason, it's the 30th.
Yes. And then yes, like the reporting requirements, I know there are going to be a couple of forms to be completed. Now the monthly reports that we will need from you will be attachment C1 and attachment C2. There is another form that is called attachment F as in Frank, It does not have to be completed monthly. However, it will need to be completed after all of your allocations have been exhausted or used. In other words, if you submit to us your C1 and C2 and you're telling us on that you have already used all of your allotment, I understand some of you have probably applied for $10,000 or a little bit more than $10,000, $15,000. Once you have already used all that money, you have 30 days from that time. Once you send us your C1 and C2, 30 days from there to submit your attachment F. And we'll talk a little bit about attachment F. But for right now, your C1 and your C2 will be your forms. I believe we may have a upload link for you to be able to retract or save the documents. And then there's an upload link, and we'll cover that later, where you will use the upload link to send the form back to us. And here you can see the, we also will be talking about the performance metrics. The performance metrics will be written on your C1. We may have some samples. Again, you may take the sample, but just convert it to your goal, to what you are trying to accomplish with your money, with the funds. We're just giving you an example for you to see and kind of have an idea of what we mean by performance metrics. But definitely your performance metrics will clearly show the readers on this report how you're tracking your successes from the pandemic. And your C2 will definitely cover that in a few more minutes. It's the detail. You're gonna be showing us in detail what you gave us in writing on the C1. On the C2, you're basically just gonna show us with numbers how much money went to, you know, this a specific invoice and so on. I guess we can probably move on to the next slide. My understanding is that we gave you all an agreement number, and I believe everyone's agreement number will start with 60-00. And then after that, you were given whether it is an 01, 02, and 03. Here, the most important information that I really would like to share is that you must always enter your agreement number at the beginning of your form, of your report. It has to start with that agreement number 60-00. Now, the third number, which in this case will be the 01, 02, 03, is going to let us know which entity it is, because there's a lot of you, there's many of you, and so that's going to help us to identify who are we dealing with, who are we talking to. Now, the 60-00 plus your third number must be at the beginning of the form, because that's going to route it to the appropriate file or folder. Otherwise, it's going to stay like an orphan child, and there's thousands of documents that we get weekly or daily, and it's going to be hard for us to track it. So subrecipients, again, might have already provided to you your agreement number. So go ahead and utilize the agreement number at the beginning of that document. Now, for second round, I believe, I don't know if you would like for me to kind of quickly touch base on the second round.
That's fine. Sure.
Some of the entities will be getting a second round of money. So if you are using or letting us know how have you utilized that second round of your allocation, go ahead and add an additional -02 at the end of your third number, which is basically your subrecipient number. The 02 will let us know that that's for your second round. And here, I wanted to say something and it just kind of escaped my mind. But basically just know that when you use 60-00, oh, again, it's a dash, not an underscore or underline. A lot of people may use an underline, and again, it's not going to go to the folder that it was intended to go. So please go use a dash instead of the underscore. Okay. We already covered that it must begin, all of your files must begin with your agreement number. And again, here we're just giving you an example. If you have to also submit any supporting documentations as far as invoices, please go ahead and put your agreement number, the name, or if it's going to be attachment 1, you can say agreement number plus and then attachment C1, the name of your entity, if you want to put it in there, that's fine, and also the month that you are submitting. So right now, we are getting into the mark of the report for the November the 20th is due, almost in 10 days. So then at the end of your document, you will say 60-00-01, for example, attachment C1, the name of your entity if you want to put that there. If not, just say attachment C1-November. We know that this is going to be for your November report, and again, it's going to go back to any expenses that you might have had from back to March all the way through October. We normally report a month behind, so your October expenses, you will be reporting that to us in November. Your November expenses will be reported to us in December, and then the December expenses will be reported to us on January. I believe I covered that, yeah, the rest. Any corrections that have to be made, let's say, for example, you want to resubmit your forms and it has to be amended, just go ahead and make the corrections and upload it with the same name as you uploaded it before, because it's going to override any previous submission. Otherwise, we'll have 2 or 3 same documents with, different with minor, details change, but we'll keep all of them there. We just want to have one file for your whatever you change, whatever amended document. Just keep the same wording. Is going to replace whatever you gave us previously. I think the rest is self-explanatory. And then here we're giving you again an example of what we mean by performance metrics. And I took this from one of your C1s. So here, if you want to, I guess, talk about the goal that you wrote, that's fine.
Yeah, so, all our goals here should be to allow, areas which depend on tourism, which is the entire state, to promote travel. So, you really want to be showing how your spending is helping to promote travel.
And then again, for the metrics, we want to be a little bit more specific as to the number of counties that have been served or the number of tourists. I mean, it's hard to probably keep track of everything, but giving us a number will better show the readers or whoever is going to be going through all of your files, this is how many counties they serve. It's just easier to track down and to keep, track of numbers rather than percentage.
Yeah, and the local businesses, this could be how many businesses you served, how many visitors you reached, how many potential visitors saw your ads, any of those type of metrics that you get from advertising programs.
That is correct. Yeah, thank you, Whit.
Sure.
We can go on. And Whit, I don't know if these are the links, but again, if Lisa sent you, and I believe I have sent you the link from on an email, we need to make sure that these are those links, and if not, we'll go ahead and replace it before you send this PowerPoint presentation out to anybody. We'll go ahead and make sure that those are the correct links.
Yeah, I would say I've sent everyone the upload and download links, so just use the ones I sent to you. Yes.
And then here is a screenshot of your attachment C1 and how it looks. On the tab organization name, you'll go ahead and give us your name, the agreement number. Once again, if you have been given a 6-digit agreement number, go ahead and give us the 6-digit agreement number. And again, if you are talking to us about your second round, give us that 02 at the end of your agreement number. The date is most likely going to be, let's say your report is due November 20th. The date that we want to see there will be for that report due date is going to be the November 20th date. If you send it to us before the 20th, that's perfect, that's fine. Go ahead and then just put November. Go ahead and put November 20th. It's help us to keep us track as to the information that you are providing to us on the descriptive summary. It has to do with October. So knowing that date for November is going to help us know that you're talking to us about the October expenses. Total funding authorized, give us your total allotment allocation that was given to you or granted to you. If you receive all at once, then let us know that you receive all of your money at once. So most likely your total funding authorized will be the same amount as, or the same number for your total funding received today. Now, where is a question, is that the case? Are they all getting the funds, the total funds, the total funding?
Yeah, that should be the same.
Okay.
It all comes at once.
Okay, perfect. So then that total funding authorized and the total funding received today most likely will be the same exact number. Now for your balance, then let us know if you didn't use all of it, then let us know out of that money, how much, what is your balance at the end of the month. And then at the bottom, your descriptive summary of how the funds were used. Again, including your performance metrics. And then this is your attachment C2. Again, this is the monthly reimbursement request by recipients or subrecipients by cost category. Once again, go ahead and give us your organization name, your contract agreement number on column B. Column C will be, again, your total funding that we're given to you. Advance will probably be the same exact number as your total funding because everything will be given to you all up front. And then here, this is going to be a little bit different for you all because you are just now starting the reports. So for your November 20th report, you most likely will have all of your expenditures from back to, again, March. So when we put here July, and those entities that started giving us report back to July, they were reporting to us anything that had to do with March through June was due in July. The July numbers or expenditures were given to us in August and so on. But in your case, if you are going to expend anything or will incur any expenditures from back to March, June, July, August, September, give it to us on your November column, that is column I. And then at the bottom, again, recipient name, the date of the invoice so that we know from back when are you requesting or incurring these expenses. We need to know the date. And again, everything else most likely is self-explanatory. But if you need to cover anything, go ahead, or you can,
Yeah, so I think that's a good question. I think a lot of our partners are using the grant for things they've already done. Say they did a big, we're open, you can come here ad program in August. If we reimburse them and they fill out this form, you said they're not going to put that in August. They should go ahead and put it in November because that's really when they're reporting it.
Yes.
Even if they spend it in August. That's the only
correct.
thing I think might be confusing to people. So good to clarify that. Okay.
So yes. And then this was the final report that we will need 30 days after your final submission of your C1 and C2. This is the final report that you'll give to us. This is, again, not a monthly report. This is just towards the end once you have used all of your allotments and allocations. Then you'll give us a descriptive summary or narrative of everything you were able to accomplish with the CRF funds. Sam, I don't know if you need to add anything to the F.
No, you handled it quite well.
Oh, and some pictures. We've seen quite nice pictures of some organizations. They provided pictures with the attachment F. That's great too. So if you can give us any pictures to show us what you've done, if applicable, of course, that'll be great as well.
And remember, the pictures and the attachment F should start with that 60-00- whatever your individual grant number is.
Yes, please. And then these are just suggestions, but most likely we've covered quite a bit of this. There's one thing I do want to specify here. As you can see, most likely the reports are due the 20th of each month. And of course, if the 20th falls on a holiday or weekend, just give it to us the next very business day. However, the January report, which is going to be for any expenditures incurred for December, is going to be due a little bit earlier. And Sam, if you could please explain why. It has to do with U.S. Treasury.
That is because we need to report all final figures to the U.S. Treasury by January 10th. So we need the information no later than January 8th so we can compile our report for the U.S. Treasury.
So yeah, thank you. So then that's the reason why we need the report for January earlier than the 20th, like we've been asking the previous months. And then once again, give us any of your supporting documentations, anything that's applicable to what you're reporting to us on your C2. Give us that supporting documentation with your attachment C1 and C2 as well. And here we're just giving you some of the examples that we've seen, whether it is payroll register, timesheets, invoices, receipts, anything that is applicable to whatever you're giving us on your C2, go ahead and please provide that to us.
And for our group, most of that will be the bottom one there, contracts, invoices, and receipts for contracted labor, ad agencies, promotional videos, photographers, and all that would start with the 60-00, and then you move on.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And I don't know if this applies to you.
No, we don't have anybody who got over 50,000. So I think we're good on this one. We tried to stay clear of that. So I think that's it, right?
Yes, sir. Any questions?
All right. Now, if you got questions, there's a questions tab on the right-hand side. So fill out the questions, and I'll have Laura answer the questions. First, I'm going to call up a little thing with Laura's information. All right, so we've got some questions. So the first question is this PowerPoint also available? Yes, we can make the PowerPoint available to anybody who wants it. Just email me and I will send you the PowerPoint. Can we submit forms for both November and December together?
November and December, I believe I had asked that question to Lisa. We really need to break it down if possible. So go ahead and give us your November separately than your December. Am I correct, Sam?
Yes, because as we're getting this information on a monthly basis, we are compiling all of this. And you need to remember that we are dealing with thousands and thousands of subrecipients and billions of dollars overall. So we need to have as much time as possible to be able to get the most accurate information to the U.S. Treasury.
Yeah, so I would say try and submit the November stuff in December when it's supposed to be, and then the December stuff early in January. As the answer to that, okay, so this is a good question. It kind of gets into how we made the sausage. We did 2 rounds of funding for these grants because we weren't sure how many people would apply, and so we did a first round, and then we came back and did a second round. Many of the companies got 2 rounds of funding. So we consider those separate grants. That's where they've got the 60-00-01-02. We consider those for our finance, the EDP&C, 2 separate payments. But I think you guys probably consider that one grant. So when they're asked about their total authorized funding, should they lump those together or should they keep them separate?
Sam, I don't know if it really matters.
For our purposes, no, it really does not matter. We need that total, that aggregated total.
Yeah, so I would say put them together. Be the easiest way to go, because then that's the simplest way to do it. It consolidates it into one. It's really only 2 grants for our accounting purposes. Our accounting people, since we were sending 2 checks, wanted to have 2 different invoice numbers. So that's what I would say.
And I don't think, again, it's going over 50. Everything is going to stay within that 25 to 30 range.
Yeah. Okay. No, nobody got more than 30,000.
So the 2 grants will not add up to more than 30,000?
Yep. Yep.
Perfect.
We wanted to keep us all free of trouble. Someone said they didn't receive the funds until October 26th, and they didn't do any spending in October. Do they need to do a report in November for October? or are they okay with not doing a C1, C2 that month?
So here you would only have to send us the C1, and on the bottom on the summary, just say, give us a statement to say no expenditures have been incurred for the month of October or from back to March through October 30th. But we still need the C1. It's gonna let us know that nothing was incurred in the previous months. So yes, please.
Yeah, so if you receive funds in October, you have to report for October, even if you didn't have any activity. But the reporting is really easy. You just say, I got the funds, but I haven't done anything yet.
And that's just the C1.
Should every line item, I think this is in the C2, be accompanied by an invoice of some sort?
Yes.
I would say yes, yeah. Yeah, because you can't just say, hey, I spent it on this and then not show that you spent it on, face masks, that are branded with your logo. So yeah, every line should have a line item and then a receipt that goes with it. You upload them, to the same spot. The ad we are using this money for was purchased to help recover from COVID. Does the ad have to specifically address COVID, or can it just be promotional?
Do you have any comments, Sam?
That is a good question. I think maybe, Laura, that we should talk to the programs team on that one.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely has to be something that you did in response to COVID and something that wasn't in your original budget. So, I think we would say from a tourism perspective, any ad is a thing that is a COVID response ad if it's trying to get people to travel. But we can let these guys let us know. If we had submitted a budget item in our grant application and it is no longer available, can we use the funds as long as it is not over 20% of the total grant to purchase another media buy? That's a good question. So they're asking, basically, they submitted to us a program that they would run. We approved that program. Now, if that program changes, can they still submit invoices for a different program? Is that okay with the Pandemic Recovery Office, or is that something they really need to deal with EDP&C on to cover?
As long as it's under the 20% and it is an approved program, it's okay. Once it gets over that 20%, then we're going to need to do have a look at it and get approval on that.
Great. Are receipts due with the monthly C1 report or the final F report?
The monthly C1 report.
If all our expenditures are in November, do we need to submit a form C1 for November? I think that's the same kind of question. It depends on when you got the money. If you got the money in October, you need to submit a C1 in November, which is reflective of October, that says we got the money, but we didn't do any expenditures. Right? Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. If I already completed the October form and showed that the full amount of the grant was spent, do I need to fill out another form for November? So this is somebody that got the money in October. Sorry, what was that again?
You would submit your attachment F. If all of your funds have been used and you're not receiving any more funds, then you would submit the attachment F.
Yeah, the F is kind of the shut the door, close it, thank you card, get out. So you've done the other stuff, that's great, then move on. Okay, the bulk of our funded advertising will occur in December, so we may not see a true return or impact until the 1st of 2021. Do we just give you projected outcomes? That's kind of a marketing thing. Yeah, I would say projected outcomes. You can show us the number of people the ads reached, some of the metrics you got, maybe the cost per click that you paid if it's digital advertising. What they really want to see, I think, are metrics. Hard numbers that say you didn't just give this to Uncle Bob and let him, talk about it on his blog. That it was actually a verified advertising purchase. Funds were used to support production work for the credit program. Are you looking for results from the overall campaign? Yes, I think this is a question for us. They took the money and used it for ads that ran in our program. So we can give you once again, I think it's the same as we said last time. If we don't have the results, how many people came, we can give you the results of how many people you reached with that advertising, and that's available before. So that should be no problem. When are the round 2 grants being delivered? They are being delivered as we speak. Our finance people are sending those out as soon as you guys get your contracts back into me. We don't send any money until we've got a signed contract, and that shows that you've received the C1 and the C2 and the F and all the instructions on how to do it. As soon as you get those back, we will get the checks out as quick as we can. They should come out this week if you get them in this week, or if you don't get them until late this week, they might not come out till next week. Elkin received a credit to be used in the co-op programs. This is separate from the grant program and is not reported on these forms, correct? Yes, that is true. That is a completely different CARES Act program that we did with co-op marketing activities there, and that's completely separate. This is about the 1.5 million, the grants. Okay, we're getting there, almost done. In submitting, are you guys okay time-wise? In submitting round 1 and round 2 together, is this just for attachment F as final report or also applicable to C1 and C2? I think it's C1 and C2 for everything, right? Because the Pandemic Recovery Office doesn't care about whether you got it in the first round or the second round.
That's correct.
Okay, so that's for everything. Just lump it all together. Do we need to also submit proof of payment of the invoice with the C2, or is a copy of the invoice sufficient? Well, that's a good question.
So you're asking, are they asking whether they can submit the original versus a copy?
I think they're asking if they can just submit the invoice as opposed to showing the invoice is stamped as paid or something like that.
Oh yeah, as long
just
as you've got documentation to back up the expenditure. What we don't want is the POs. We want that invoice from the vendor or whoever it is that you paid.
Right.
So, and what we recommend is to take all of those and put them all into one PDF, use your agreement number, and then afterwards put supporting documentation. And then if it's for your October expenditures, then you would put -November, because that would be on your November report.
Okay, sounds great. Okay, one more question. So if we do a C1 for each contract agreement, or a C1 that covers both contracts, you're doing a C1 that covers both rounds. If so, do we include both contract agreement numbers on the C1? I think Pandemic Recovery Office really only cares about that first number, right? I don't. So, like, if your grant number 60,
to explain it, like it wouldn't hurt to explain that maybe in the summary, round 1, agreement number blah 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 60-00-01. This is how much money we got, and then for agreement 2, you can just say 60-00-01-02. This is how much we got there, just so that we know that you got 2. And then for the name of the agreement on the actual document, then just go ahead and use the first 6 digits. And then at the bottom or on the body of the C1, explain to us that you have the 2 rounds. That would be okay. Because I think it will be confusing with, now that I'm thinking about it, if they combine both allotments and they're just doing one report for both rounds, it's probably going to confuse them, because then we don't want them to be sending in perhaps 2 reports. As Sam said earlier, we are seeing all at just once as like one lump sum. Now, for your purpose, I think you guys are keeping it different. For us, I think we're just going to look at it as they got 10,000 here, 15,000 there. That's a total of $25,000. If they can explain that to us on the C1 and then just send us that C1 report, go ahead and name it correctly with your agreement number 60-00-01 or 02, then that would be okay. I think we'll understand.
okay. So if someone received some of the money in October and then the second round in November, in this month's report, they would say their total funding was just the money that they've already received, right? Or would they do the total that they're going to receive as the total grant, and then the amount that they've gotten as the advance?
Okay, repeat the question again.
Okay, so if they received $15,000 in October for the first round, and now they've been approved for 10,000 more, but they haven't received that yet, and it's already November, and they're filling out the form for October, should they say that their total grant that they've received is 25,000 and what they've received in advance is 15,000?
That is correct. That's how we've been. Yes, other entities, that's how they've done it.
Okay, so that'll show that you're gonna get that money, but you haven't received it yet.
Yes, and the advance will show us that. Yes, that's perfect.
That's what that advance line is for. Are we submitting the reports to Visit NC or NC Pandemic Recovery Office? You should be uploading all those reports to the Pandemic Recovery Office. If you want to submit them to us so we can look at them and review them for you, we're happy to do that. We'll take that at wit@visitnc.com. You can send them to us, but you have to upload them to the Pandemic Recovery Office.
Laura, it is 10:40. You need to go for that meeting.
All right, and that's all our questions. So it's perfect time. Thanks a lot, Laura. Thank you, Samantha, as well. We appreciate it, and we'll talk to you guys again sometime soon.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.
Thank
Now,
you.
for our crew, I'm going to continue on a little more and just go over some more detail with these in case you still got questions. So, as I explained, this is all about the grant program, not the credit program. Remember, the credit program was a separate, it wasn't a grant. We were actually able to distribute 120 of these grants to 84 different organizations from 71 different counties. So we were really thrilled. As they went over, there's 3 requirements to this thing. It has to be a necessary expenditure because of COVID. It can't have been accounted for as of March 27th in your budget, and it has to have been done between March 1st and December 30th, not 31st. As I said, there's really 3 forms, the C1, the C2, and the attachment F. C1 is the status, C2 is the actual dollars, and the F is the outcomes. So there's the C1, she showed it to you. This is the C1 that we filled out for that other grant. So you can see the organization name, they have us do Department of Commerce. You guys would do your organization. You'd have your contract number, the date, total funding authorized. So that's the total amount you got in both rounds. Total funding received to date, that'll be the amount you've received so far. The balance is obviously what you haven't received yet. This is the performance. This is when they're asking you to say, basically, what are you trying to get? And this is a description of how we did that for ours. So, you know, we said, okay, what are we trying to get with that $15 million we got? Well, we wanted to do a COVID-19 stimulus program. We created a public health initiative. We've done free trainings, and then we've got goals and metrics. You know, so one of our goals was to educate North Carolina businesses and guests on ways to travel in a safe and socially distant way. So how are we showing we did that? Well, we're showing the number of people that participated in the program. We're showing the number of trainings we've completed. We're showing the number of businesses, basically the traffic to the website. We're also showing the ads, you know, how much we spent on ads, how many of the partners partnered with us on the credit program. So that's what they're looking for. Just like you would report to your board. If your board gave you $20,000 and said, go do an ad campaign, at some point you would probably have to come back to the board and say, all right, this is what we did with it. And even if you can't say, and it got this many visitors to come, or it brought this much spending, you can say, this is the audience we reached. And I think that is the key. You don't have to show them that this has brought new visitors here. You can say it's going to bring visitors here. We're a business that, you know, there's some lead time involved. So we won't be able to have gotten through that lead time to show that we've successfully brought visitors here, but we can say, this is the audience we've reached. And then the bottom, of course, you got to sign it and tell them who you are. That's the bottom of that form. So then this is the C2 real quick. What does the C2 look like? You know, as she said, you're going to put your organization name there, contract agreement number. That's going to be your 60-00. This was our other contract, so it's a different number. Total funding, so that's the total amount you've gotten in both rounds. And then the advance, that's going to be how much you've received so far. They're not going to have you do any of the July, August, September stuff because you're receiving it so much later. So then you would just put something in the October line item. That's going to add over to the total received to date. Then you give, you know, your contact name and your title and your information. And then the tricky part, I think, of the C2 is every receipt. You know, so that's the receipt, the company's name. When the receipt came in, I basically put the company's name again. My name, well, that's the same name as the company, unless maybe it's a company and a person. I don't think it matters. Put the same thing. Then you're going to have an invoice number. If they're sending you an invoice, there's chances are there's an invoice number for it. So put the invoice number down. Then just give a brief description of what it is. Is resident sentiment research. It's promotional items. It's PPE. It's, you know, outdoor NC. Then there's this total invoice amount. That's the next column. So then you put in the total invoice amount, how much, you know, they charged you for that invoice. And then next you go over into the gray columns. And in the gray columns, there's no employee expenses for any of the grants we did because you weren't allowed to use it for payroll. Some people have, these grants weren't allowed for that. So the first gray column should be blank. Then the second one is basically that contracted labor expenses. So that's going to be the same number as you put in over on the other side, but on the gray column. The reason why it's important that you put it again on the gray column is because that adds up over into the total expenditures over here on the side. And then they're going to ask you if the vendor is a historically underutilized business, yes or no. If you don't know, you can ask the business. If you don't want to do that, just put no. If they're not, that's just something that helps with the federal contracts. They try and get as many historically underused businesses as they can, and it's a great idea. If you can use a historically underutilized business, please do, because I think it's a great idea. The other thing that I've seen in their recommendations is you're going to see, you may have 5 or 6 of these, and there's 30 lines on this Excel sheet. Don't delete the extra lines. Leave the extra lines because down at the bottom it totals up, and the software they have wants it to match that total. So don't delete, leave a bunch of empty lines. If you only had 2 invoices, if you had 8 invoices, there's a ton of room for invoices. I can't imagine you would have more invoices than there are actually lines on the form. So then you should be good. And once you've spent all the money and you've done all your stuff, you do the attachment F, which is basically a thank you very much. So you're going to put your name, and then the outcomes. Okay, you gave us $25,000. We did 5 ads in our state magazine. We reached 800,000 people who are going to come to visit. You know, we got added value of this and that and the other thing. Thank you so much. That's really all you need from the attachment F. And so those are the processes. Remember, you're going to do it on the 20th of the month, except for January, which I didn't realize. You got to do that by the 8th of the month. Remember to name your files with the grant number, because what happens is they all go into a big sorter essentially, and if you've got the grant number, it goes into your folder. If it doesn't have a grant number, it basically gets thrown out. It gets put into a massive batch of grants that they have no idea where to go to. And this is the Pandemic Recovery Office, that they're dealing with millions and millions of dollars. So if you don't have that right number on there, it's not going to get in your folder, and there's nobody going to be digging through every single widowed file to figure out where it goes. So make sure everything you upload starts with a 60-00- whatever your number is. Included on the invoices too. You know, you're going to have an invoice, it's a PDF or something. Don't forget to change the file name of the PDF to start it with your file number. Okay, so hopefully that's enough for you guys to be rocking and rolling. Let me see if we've got any other questions I can hopefully answer. Can you send us examples? Yes, I can definitely send you guys examples if you need them. just email me at VisitNC. We can send you partially done ones that show some of the metrics and that kind of stuff. If you guys want to use that, happy to do that. So I hope everybody, this was helpful. If you have any other questions, ask. If not, thanks so much for joining us. We will be back in, I think, a week or two with another Wednesday webinar, our usual webinar series again. But we're really happy to have all this done and have you guys working with us. And I know this is confusing and something we haven't done before, but if you have any questions, please feel free, shoot me an email, give me a call, and we'll try and get through this together. I understand that a lot of people probably, I don't think they're going to say that we need to advertise specifically COVID safety, but I think the key is that we emphasize with them that the ads are about COVID safe activities. And that, I think, is the key that we're trying to push with the Pandemic Recovery Office, is to say, if we're promoting pandemic safe activities, we're essentially doing the job that needs to be done. So, but we'll get back to you if we hear anything different from the Pandemic Recovery Office, and we'll talk to you guys soon. Thanks.